Have you ever found yourself in a situation that seemed harmless, only to realize you were being watched hunted? Or worse, you had walked straight into a trap, a casual encounter, a smile with unclear intent, a question that sounds innocent. They could all be signs of something much, much darker. In today's video, you'll hear 3 true stories about weekend shifts, late-night drives, or a simple rainy evening that all spiraled into a nightmare. The people in these stories were lucky enough to get out, but none of them ever forgot the eyes, the knocks on the door, or the feeling of being stalked. Turn off the lights, put your headphones on, and get ready to step into stories that'll make you think twice the next time someone stares at you too long in public. Story 1. The Last Night Shift. I used to work the late night shift at a roadside diner in Washington, just off a quiet stretch of highway where the woods swallowed everything past the pavement. We closed at 2:00 a.m. Most nights by 1:30 the place was dead. The chef and I would spend the last half hour cleaning up, waiting for the last customer to trickle out. That night though, someone stepped in just 10 minutes before close. He was odd, heavyset, wore high-waisted jeans and an old brown jacket. His glasses were thick and his mustache looked like it belonged to a different decade. He had that kind of smile that felt like a performance, tight, persistent, and just a little too wide. He introduced himself as Nolan. I offered him a seat at the counter, but he insisted on a booth. Said he liked space. Fair enough. I handed him the menu and warned him the kitchen was closing in 10 minutes. He nodded, kept smiling, and said, "Just coffee, and French toast if you don't mind." The order was simple enough. I passed it off to the chef, who gave me a look like, "Really?" At 1:50, I just shrugged. What could I do? When I returned to the dining area, Nolan waved me over. He asked if I was from the area, made small talk about the potholes on the roads, complained about the cold. Then he asked, "You live nearby?" I kept my answer vague, just the general area. He nodded, that grin never leaving his face. "Good to know," he said. And I remember thinking, good to know for what he ate quietly after that. But every so often I'd catch him looking up at me, not watching, studying. At one point he pulled out his phone, but he didn't text or call anyone. He held it low, like he was pointing the camera at me. I wiped down the counters, staying behind them just a little longer than usual. I didn't want to give him any excuse to talk again. My social battery was running on fumes. When he finally finished eating, I brought him the check before he even asked my polite way of saying time to wrap it up. He paid by card, smiled again, and walked out without another word. I exhaled. 5 minutes later, I clocked out, said goodnight to the chef, and stepped outside into the chill of early morning. There were 3 cars in the lot. Mine, the chef's, and a third one, an older silver sedan, parked off to the far side right by the tree line. I couldn't see inside. The windows were dark. Maybe it was just the angle. Maybe the tint. I thought about Nolan. Wondered if that was his. I got in my car and started driving. 15 minutes into the drive, my dashboard dinged. The rear right tire was losing pressure. Fast. From 28 psi to 10, then 5. The steering wheel started to shake, then the whole car. I had no choice. I pulled off onto a gravel shoulder just off the highway. As soon as I stepped out to check the tire, a pair of headlights switched on behind me. They weren't there a second ago. The car crept forward, slowly illuminating the side of my vehicle. It was the silver sedan. Nolan stepped out. He had gloves on now, black ones. He smiled, waved. "Kathy, right? What are the odds?" He laughed like it was some cute coincidence. My stomach twisted. I didn't tell him my name. I didn't tell him anything. He motioned to my tire. "Need a hand?" I cracked the window 2 inches, just enough to speak. I already called someone. My boyfriend's on his way. He stopped smiling. He looked at me for a long second, then walked around to inspect the tire like he was verifying the damage he caused. I reached for my phone under my jacket. I had already dialed 911 and left the call running in my lap. When he came back around, I was ready. "Thanks, but I'm good," I said loudly. "My boyfriend will be here any second now." His expression changed, tensed. Then he leaned in close to the window and punched it. Glass exploded onto my lap. I screamed. He reached inside not to grab me, but to snatch my phone. He hurled it into the darkness. Then he ran. His tires screamed as he peeled off into the night. I sat there shaking. No phone, no help. Just the sound of crickets and my own ragged breathing. But then sirens. Somehow the 911 operator had traced my location before the line went dead. When the cops pulled up, I broke down. They changed my tire, escorted me home, and later confirmed the man from the diner wasn't registered under the name Nolan. He never came back. But I still don't drive that highway alone at night. Ever again. Story 2. The man who was everywhere I used to work part-time at an amusement park in New York. I was only 15, just trying to make a bit of weekend spending money. One Sunday in October, I was wrapping up what would be my last shift of the season. The park would be closed until May the following year. That day was overcast and chilly. The sky was a flat gray like it was about to rain. I glanced at the time, 4:55 p.m. 5 more minutes and I'd be done. As I was cleaning up, a man walked over. He had a thick beard, greasy hair, a stained t-shirt, and torn sweatpants. I remember thinking, one last customer. Just push through. "Hi, sir. Can I help you with something?" I asked. He didn't respond. Instead, he glanced around nervously like someone was watching him. I repeated my question a little more firmly this time. "Bathroom." "Where is it?" he whispered. I pointed up the hill to the right. He silently turned and walked away, but every few steps, he kept looking back at me. My shift ended. I changed clothes and waited at the staff parking lot for my friend Jordan to pick me up. He was late about 30 minutes. We decided to stop by a diner nearby for burgers before heading home. As we were eating, I looked up and nearly choked. That man was sitting at a table across the diner staring at me. I froze, whispered to Jordan. He glanced over and shrugged with a nervous laugh. "Probably just a coincidence. Don't worry about it." I nodded, but something felt wrong. We left the diner, got in the car, and began the 35-minute drive home. At the first red light, I casually glanced to the right, and my heart nearly stopped. A white Honda had pulled up next to us. The man was sitting in the driver's seat, staring at me. I whispered to Jordan, my voice shaking. He looked too, and that time he stopped laughing. We turned into a neighborhood and started circling blocks just to make sure we weren't being followed. When we were sure the coast was clear, Jordan dropped me off at home. No one else was home that evening. My mom and sister were out shopping and my dad was away on a business trip. I rushed to my room, locked the door, climbed into bed. Then I heard it. A knock on the window. I slowly crept over and pulled the curtain aside. He was standing on the lawn, staring up at me, smiling. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and called 911. But by the time the cops arrived, he was gone. I quit the amusement park job at the end of the season, and to this day, I've never seen that man again. Story 3. The Soaked Girl and the Midnight Knock. It was a night of torrential rain. I was working the closing shift at a small roadside diner just outside town. It was cold. The place was nearly empty. I'd just finished cleaning when a couple walked in, a man in his 40s and a girl who looked barely in her 20s. I showed them to a booth. They spoke in hushed tones, occasionally glancing at me. The man was talkative, asking about the menu, joking around. But the girl stayed silent, eyes down. She wouldn't look at me. Midway through the conversation, he asked something that made my skin crawl. "You live alone, don't you?" I nodded hesitantly. Then, without thinking, blurted out, "Yeah. About 10 minutes north. Quiet area." They finished eating and left. I didn't think much of it. Around 1 a.m. I got home. The rain hadn't stopped, still pounding like a waterfall. I lived on the ground floor of a 3-story house. After setting my keys down in the kitchen, there was a knock at the door. I peeked through the gap, keeping the chain lock on. A soaking wet girl stood outside. Her face half lit, half shadowed. A gray hoodie pulled over her head. "Please," she whispered. "Can I borrow your phone? There's a strange man following me." I started to unlock the door, then hesitated. She looked just like the girl from the diner earlier that night. "Were you at the diner tonight?" I asked. She didn't answer, just stared at me, terrified. Suddenly, she turned and screamed, "There he is. He's coming." I looked past her and saw him. The man from the diner walking slowly toward my front steps. I slammed the door shut and threw the bolt. No knock, no sound. I ran up the stairs and knocked frantically on the upstairs apartment. No answer, no lights, no cars in the lot. I was completely alone in a 3-story house. A few minutes later, while brushing my teeth, I heard it. A knock, but not from the front door. From inside the staircase that led to the basement. I stepped out, pressed my ear to the door. "Who's there?" I asked. No answer. I shouted, "If you don't say anything, I'm calling the police." Then a voice whispered back, "I've come for your blood." I sprinted to the bedroom, locked the door, hid in the closet, and dialed 911. Cops arrived 10 minutes later. No one was there. But on the door, written in marker, "Thanks for the meal, Beth." A meal. 3 stories. 3 near escapes. And 3 warnings you should never forget. Not everyone who smiles at you is harmless. Not everyone who says they need help actually does. And not every door is meant to be opened. If you've ever experienced something terrifying like this, leave a comment below. We read all of them, and your story might be featured in a future episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who also finds fascination in the darker side of everyday life. Because sometimes, the real fear isn't in horror movies, it's waiting just outside your front door.